To succeed as bad as you want to breathe, then you'll be successful. You know that one when you lose and you ain't even got no sportsman? He told the guy, he said, when you want to succeed as bad as you want to breathe, then you'll be successful. You know that one when you lose and you ain't even got no sportsmanship? You know that one? Normally, you lose, you just man up. You don't want to shake their hand, but you do it anyway because that's a part of the game. But when you get so tired of losing,
are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here?
listen to me. Pain is temporary. It may last for a minute or an hour or a day or even a year. But eventually it will subside and something else will take its place. If I quit, however, it will last forever.
You are tuning into the Hustle and Grit Experience. My name is Prince Williams, the real Prince Williams, and I'm here to help you flow and grow and expand your mind so you can live a hustle and grit lifestyle. I want you to tune in today. What we're going to be talking about is fear, overcoming your fear, and overcoming your fear with Stoicism. So I want you to sit back, relax, and tune in because we're going to get right into it. So what we're going to do today is we're going to go over some of my most favorite Stoicism sayings and quotes. We're going to break them down and we're going to explain what these things mean and how to apply it in your life. So I'm going to start this video and we're going to get right into the discussion.
Didn't you use new Old Spice dry spray with long-lasting freshness?
Quiet, they'll hear us.
No, I can't. You stink.
I told you I forgot my own.
Sorry about that. Let me go ahead and start this video.
When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love. The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts.
We're going to stop right there and we're just going to even talk about that. Just a little quote right there. The happiness of your thought, of your life, depends on the quality of your thoughts. And I mean, it's really self-explanatory. But at the end of the day, what you need to understand is happiness comes from within. It doesn't come from without. And so when you are really thinking about your thought life and thinking about the thoughts that you're thinking about, and if those thoughts are productive and are serving you in the best way possible, those thoughts are going to produce an outcome, just like the negative thoughts in your life will produce an outcome. So if you're consciously thinking about being positive or doing positive things or producing a positive result, those have to produce a result which would lead to ultimately happiness, or what we would hope would lead to happiness. Obviously, we all have expectations, and sometimes things come our way to hinder that expectation. But as long as you are staying the course and you have the right mindset with the right intentions, ultimately you're going to live a happier life with the proper mindset. So as long as you have the right thought life, just trust that that's better for you in the long run than not, and letting your mind wander into territory in which you're looking for the external things to make you happy versus how you feel on the inside.
Look well into thyself. There is a source of strength which will always spring up if thou wilt always look. Do not indulge in dreams of having what you have not, but reckon up the chief of the blessings you do possess, and then thankfully remember how you would crave them if they were not yours.
So this is another Stoic wisdom, basically stating that you shouldn't indulge in the things that you don't have. Basically, indulging means wanting, longing for the things that you don't have. Be happy for the things that you do have. Be grateful for the things that you already have in your life now. And in order to do that, you have to live in the moment. And as you're living in the moment, you'll realize that you're much more grateful for the moment. You're much more grateful for the things that are already there versus the things that you're looking for. Going back again, looking and longing for the things that you don't possess on the external versus the things that you already have internally. And we all have those things. We all have things that make us fulfilled on the inside. We just have to be gracious and give thanks for those things. You know, we all have gifts. We all have talents. And trust me, if you are extending those gifts and those talents to other people, you're going to get so much more back in return, and often even more than you even expected. So never look to indulge for what you don't have, because those things are going to come by proxy of you just doing the right thing. Make sense?
The object of life is not to be on the side of the majority, but to escape finding oneself in the ranks of the insane. Here is a rule to remember in future when anything tempts you to feel bitter. Not, this is misfortune, but to bear this worthily is good fortune.
This is a perfect rule to remember. A perfect rule. Just, keeping in mind that, there are things that come that cause us, and, even tying that back into the first few rules that we looked at, the longing and the wanting sometimes leads us, and the looking externally and seeing the things that we don't have often leads us to think and wonder and feel resentment and bitterness for the things we don't have. And we look at those things that we don't have as misfortune. And in reality, they're not misfortune. Sometimes we're not ready. Sometimes we need to cultivate ourselves a little bit more. And 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 when you cultivate yourself more, you build an esteem around that, or a worthiness around that, which brings good fortune just by proxy. So you should never feel bitter for what you don't have. You should always work to get better so you can have. So it's always really just, it always comes back to the first rule, is to look within, not without. Understand?
Accept whatever comes to you woven in the pattern of your destiny, for what could more aptly fit your needs.
Again, misfortune, we often think that is negative, really can be positive. Don't worry about what is. Don't worry about the why. Worry about making yourself better. Worry about taking care of yourself. That's what you need to be concerned with. That's what you always need to be concerned with.
You don't have to turn this into something. It doesn't have to upset you.
This is one of my favorites. You have the choice in choosing. You don't have to accept something as negative in your life. You don't even have to accept what is upsetting you in your life. What is upsetting you is the fact that you are perceiving it to be bad, or good for that matter. And based off of your biases, you make a story around that. And just as well as you choose, you can also not choose to accept the story. Yeah, it doesn't mean that the circumstances may change, right? Because circumstances are always going to come. But what it does mean is, in circumstances coming, and you taking the information, or seeing the information, or receiving the information that is coming your way, you can choose to accept it or not, or you could choose to change the meaning of it or not. You can choose it as a challenge, or you can choose it as something that you need to overcome. Or you could choose it. You can even choose it to be something positive. It's all in you. It's all that matters. It's all a matter of how you see it and how you view it. That's what creates your reality. You do not have to. You do not have to turn it into anything. It doesn't have to be anything if you choose. It's just that simple.
To live a good life, we all have the potential for it if we learn to be indifferent to what makes no difference. Think of yourself as dead. You have lived your life. Now, take what's left and live it properly.
Think of yourself as dead, and then what's left, you live it properly. The Stoics, or the Greek philosophers, used to say memento mori, which means you will die. That is the thing. We are going to die at some point. But it's not what you do that defines you. or should I say, it's not that death is going to define you. It's what you do with the life that you do have that will define you. What are you going to do with the life that you do have? You can't change the past. No matter what you think about the past or how the past comes up, how negative or positive it was, it doesn't mean anything. All you have is right now, and you don't even have the future. The future is ahead of you, but right now all you have is the present moment. So when the future comes, the future would then be the present moment. So all that you have is the present moment. So what you need to choose is living in the moment. And how are you going to live right now? What type of person do you want to be? What type of person are you going to be? That's what you need to be asking yourself. And then you need to choose to live that way. And yeah, it's going to take some work. And it's not easy. And that's okay. But as long as you decide, it's all within you. That's what matters. And if you have the right intention and the right mindset, those are going to produce the right results in your life.
Death smiles at us all, but all a man can do is smile back. The best revenge is not to be like your enemy.
The best revenge is not to look like your enemy. I was having a conversation earlier today, speaking on this, and basically, even just what I just repeated right now is, what type of person do you want to be? It doesn't matter what happened. It doesn't matter how you perceived it. It doesn't even matter what the why of the matter was. What matters is, how are you going to take care of yourself? And so when you're looking for revenge, you're saying that person has more power over you than you have over yourself. So really, you need to take back that energy and say that I'm going to take care of myself and not worry about the external circumstance, and not worry about trying to get revenge on somebody who did me wrong or what I perceived as wrong. Because what you don't know is, how is that situation shedding light on the areas that you need to grow? So nothing is inherently wrong and nothing is inherently bad. It's just how you perceive it. And everything is working for the good of you. If you believe that the universe is all good and is working on your behalf, then you have to know that all of those situations are being used to help you and to define you and to help you grow. So taking revenge on somebody does you no good. It's wasted energy. Take back your energy. Don't worry about that.
Your mind will take the shape of what you frequently hold in thought, for the human spirit is colored by such impressions. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. You have power over your mind.
We're going to go back to this one.
Impressions. The impediment to action advances action.
Oh, that's my favorite. This is my ultimate favorite. The impediment to action advances the action. What stands in the way becomes the way. There's a book. It's written by Ryan Holiday. It's called "The Obstacle Is the Way," and this is exactly what this particular saying by Marcus Aurelius is saying. What you perceive as an obstacle is the very way that you need to go to grow. I'm not trying to rhyme. This just comes naturally. The impediment to action, what impedes you to act, is the very thing that causes you to act. And what's standing in your way becomes the very way that you need to go. And again, we go back to the thought process. You don't know why those things are coming your way. Tests and trials and tribulations come to grow us. They come to help us. They come to move us. And what it's doing is shedding light on the areas that you needed to work on in the process. And you got to enjoy the process. And as you enjoy the process and you're walking along the path, you'll learn that maybe those things that you thought was negative actually were the very things that caused you to be in the position that you're in now when you're walking in the positive. When things are actually going your way and you look back in hindsight and you say, wait a minute, hold on. Wow, look where I came from. Look where I was and look where I came from. Now you can say to yourself, in hindsight, but you had no reference at the moment because you were in the midst of the storm. And it wasn't until you got into the eye of the storm and when there was some calm and there was some peace, you could see all the chaos that was around you, but you're no longer in it. But you had to go through it to get through it. Make sense?
Stands in the way becomes the way. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. It is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live. Never let the future disturb you. You will meet it, if you have to, with the same weapons of reason which today arm you against the present. Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking.
Very little is needed to make a happy life. This kind of is a repeat of some of the other principles. Everything starts with you. And the sooner you realize that, the easier these things get. Where you understand that it doesn't matter what's happening on the outside. Matter of fact, reality is a product of your own thinking. We all produce our own story. We have our own movie that we're living out. And that's really the best way to describe it and to explain it. And so if you understand that you're the star of your own movie, that you know that eventually the star always wins. But what is a good movie without a good plot? And what is a good movie without some challenges and some trials and some tribulations? Because what it causes is it causes a contrast in which the character in the story, or the main character in the story, he has to overcome, or she has to overcome some things to get through it, to get to the other side. It's just to make for a good story. And your life is the same way. You can't know up without there being down, and you can't know cold without there being hot. So how can you know what's happiness without there being an equal and opposite reaction of knowing that you were once sad or upset or downtrodden? But it's all a matter of perception. And you have to be able to switch it off and then switch it on to pull yourself out. And that's just a matter of thinking. It's a matter of self-control, emotional control, and changing what you're thinking about. And it's thinking about what you're thinking about. And shedding light and bringing awareness to the things that no longer serve you.
Loss is nothing else but change, and change is nature's delight.
I love this one as well. Loss is nothing but change is nothing but nature's delight. And at the end of the day, what you need to understand is what we perceive as loss really is just change. And the law of the universe is about entropy. Everything is always expanding, so in the expansion, there's going to be chaos. And so what we're viewing as chaos, because we want a sense of control, is really just the expansion. It's change. And nothing is forever. And so you have to be okay with losing and detaching and things leaving and coming and going in your life. And as you are able to do that more and more without causing distress, you're going to be happier in return. That's what it means. Change is nothing but nature's delight. Everything in nature changes. Everything in nature has to go through a destruction cycle and a creation cycle. So as in nature, so as in life. So just as in your own life, you have to go through the dead periods to get to the growth and the periods of sunshine and expansion.
A man's true delight is to do the things he was made for.
That's living in your purpose.
True happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence upon the future. Not to amuse ourselves with either hopes or fears, but to rest satisfied with what we have, which is sufficient. For he that is so wants nothing.
And so this is just a reiteration of what I've already kind of explained. It's about detachment. It's about letting go. It's about, developing true happiness, which is not dependent on the external. It's about living in the moment. Because one says if you're living in the past, that causes depression. And if you're living in the future, that causes anxiety. So if you're living too far ahead of time of what you're thinking about, you're going to be a little bit anxious. And if you're living too far in the past, you're going to be depressed. So all you have right now is the right now. And when you're living in the right now, you have no time for fear. Fear is just the expansion of what you're thinking about that hasn't transpired. It doesn't exist. It's not real. But somewhere along the line, you attached a meaning to something, and then you defined it and you made a story around it. And that fear has grown into something that's unrealistic. And so you have to overcome that fear by just doing it anyway. By just living. in living to the fullest, without restrictions, without barriers. And when you do that, you'll want nothing, because you'll need nothing, because you're living in the moment.
Begin at once to live. Count each separate day as a separate life.
You got to live every
It is
day.
not because things are difficult that we do not dare. It is because we do not dare that things are difficult.
Here we go. He doesn't outright express it, but that's basically what he's talking about is fear. We do not the things that are difficult because we do not dare. We do not move. We do not act because we're afraid. We're afraid of the unknown. And let me explain the unknown to you for just a second. The known is what you have already gone through. The known produces the results that produces the day-to-day stuff that happens in your life. The unknown is when you're sitting in some unpredictable moment where you just don't know what's going to happen. And see, most of us take that and predict that as something negative and something bad, because we much rather go into the known, whether it was served us or not, or it was good or bad. And sometimes, most times bad. We much rather stay there than just be able to sit in the unknown, because unknown is where creation happens. And if you could just sit and self-regulate and be still and be okay and practice emotional maturity and think about what you want to create instead of what you've already created, what is difficult, what seems difficult will become easy. Because you will be creating a reality that didn't exist. And everything around you has to conform to what you created.
We all sorely complain of the shortness of time, and yet have much more than we know what to do with. Our lives are either spent in doing nothing at all, or in doing nothing to the purpose, or in doing nothing that we ought to do. We are always complaining that our days are few, and acting as though there would be no end of them. A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials.
Oh my God. Oh my God. This is great. A diamond is formed under pressure. The process is coal is taken via the ground or the rock, the sediment, or coal-like chemicals or molecules, and they're compressed, and they're pressurized, and that pressure produces heat. And in the pressure, over time, that produces a crystal, and that crystal is called diamonds. And diamonds is the hardest substance, one of the hardest substances in the world. And you can't get diamonds without pressure. Just as much as you can't get a gem polished without friction. Because you gotta do some work to that gem to clean it up. You got to use a towel or a polishing rag or something that got a little bit of friction on it, or a drill bit just to polish out the imperfections, to get it to shine. But see, here's the thing. Diamonds aren't without imperfections. Some of the rarest diamonds have imperfections in them. That's what makes them diamonds. That's what makes them valuable. It's the glistening in the diamond plus the imperfection that causes it to be valuable. And some of them, although we have flawless diamonds, so-called flawless diamonds, yeah, you got some flawless diamonds, but those are usually man-made. But the ones that you want are the ones that come from nature. That although they look brilliant inside, they still got flaws, because the flaws came from the friction. You can't be perfect. You can't be perfected without there being some trials and some tribulations. You have to go through the storm. We all have to go through the storm. We have to go through the trials. That's what makes us us. That's what makes us unique. That's what gives us wisdom. And you just have to embrace it. Instead of being in fear and running away from it and shutting off and not wanting to deal with it, you have to run towards it. You got to face those fears. You got to want the pressure. And in the pressure, that's when you'll be perfected.
The bravest sight in the world is to see a great man struggling against adversity.
This is just an extension of what we just talked about. The bravest sight in the world is seeing a great man struggling against adversity, because we're all going to have adversities. We're all going to go through some things. You know, we can't get around that. And even the greatest of men, the men that we look at, the men that we look towards, all of them have trials. All of them have tribulations. All of them have problems. But see, they don't focus in on those problems. They focus in on the solution to the problem. Problems are never the problem. It's dwelling in the problem and staying in the problem. That's the problem. As long as you have problems and you're determined to find a solution, because there's a solution to every issue. There's a solution to every question. And as long as you're solution minded, you'll never have to worry about the problem. All you have to do is stay focused enough to find the solution.
Every night, before going to sleep, we must ask ourselves, what weakness did I overcome today? What virtue did I acquire?
What type of person do I want to be? Who do I want to be today?
Throw me to the wolves, and I will return leading the pack. Life is never incomplete if it is an honorable one. At whatever point you leave life, if you leave it in the right way, it is whole.
You know, let me shed some light on this. The only way that you will leave an incomplete life if you're not living to your highest potential. You live here underachieving, not doing what you're supposed to do, not finding your purpose. But in the other hand, if you find your purpose and you're living a godly life, a hopeful life, a perfect, purposeful life, you'll always be whole. And again, it's about looking within versus looking without. If you're looking without for your purpose, you'll never find it. But if you look within, you'll always know what is it. What is it that you want to do? What excites you? What ignites your fire? What gets you excited? Look for that. Find that. Live that. Walk that path. That's the path of wholeness.
We suffer more often in imagination than in reality. You want to live, but do you know how to live? You are scared of dying, but tell me, is the kind of life you lead really any different to being dead?
This is all a passage about fear. And that's all fear is. Fear is false imaginations appearing real, or false evidence appearing real. It's a story. We suffer more times than not because of the actual event that has happened to us. We suffer because more in our mind, we have made up a story about the event that may happen to us. So we're having false imaginations about something that has not occurred, that does not exist. Instead of living in the moment and living it out and seeing how it unfolds. You might as well be dead. That is death versus life. Life is living. And using that same imagination not to suffer or not to think on the negative or not to create these images that may or may not happen, that doesn't necessarily benefit us or makes us feel bad. We can flip that and we could turn it around and we could actually imagine the things that we do want to come into our life and to create a different reality.
The greatest blessings of mankind are within us and within our reach. A wise man is contented with his lot, whatever it may be. Man is affected not by events, but by the view he takes of them.
Amen.
As is a tale, so is life. Not how long it is, but how good it is what matters. Sometimes, even to live is an act of courage.
How do you want to live?
If you really want to escape the things that harass you, what you're needing is not to be in a different place, but to be a different person.
Let me explain something to you about reality. Reality is, especially this 3D world that we live in. This is a 3D world. Reality is just a reflection. So whatever is happening in your own mind, because your thoughts are powerful. And I want you to realize this, because what is in your mind via thoughts will typically, if thought about long enough, will be said out in your mouth. And how you speak is what manifests. So thoughts and speech are very, very the same thing. So Thoughts are just the whispers of the things that you say out loud. Make sense? And so reality will conform to the very things that you say, whether it be in your mind or out of your mouth. And so you have to be careful what you say as well. You have to be careful how you think. That doesn't mean that we're human, right? We're all going to have some doubts sometimes, and they'll have some things that come our way. But it's not about so much the doubts or the things that are come our way. Is as much as how we think about those things and how we transfer that energy into something different. And when you can do that, that's when your reality crumbles around you and conforms to the reality of how you see things. Because reality is just a reflection of what's happening on the inside of you.
Until we have begun to go without them, we fail to realize how unnecessary many things are. We've been using them not because we needed them, but because we have them. He suffers more than necessary who suffers before it is necessary. Hang on to your youthful enthusiasms. You'll be able to use them better when you are older. It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor.
This is key here. This is very key. It's not about what you have right now. It's about being gracious and having gratitude for what you have right now. If you're ungrateful for the things you have now, you're basically telling the universe you can't handle more. And when a man craves more without having the tools to be able to handle more, he puts himself in a position to where he can't handle those things. Or if those things do come to him, they leave just as quickly as they came in the first place. Think of the lottery. Most people who win the lottery within a year or two wind up losing the money or wind up broke. Why is that? Because there's a thought process to this. There's a mentality to this. Because they weren't grateful for what they had because they never had it before. So they didn't know how to be grateful for it. And they didn't know how to cultivate it and grow it and invest it and flip it and change it. And money is nothing but currency. That's why it's called currency. And so it's meant to be an exchange of energy. It's meant to flow in as versus flow out. So if you're always hoarding it and conversely spending it without any regard, without any restraint, you will eventually end up poor because you don't have the right mindset in order to keep yourself from being poor.
If a man knows not to which port he sails, no wind is favorable. Luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity.
I've heard this before. I don't remember exactly who said it, but you make your own luck. And how is that you make your own luck? This is a perfect saying for that. Luck is when it happens to the preparation meets opportunity. Basically, it's when you're so prepared and you're so focused and you have so much intention that the world does not, or the world opens up its doors to you and it has no choice but to give you its overflow. So as opportunities comes up, because you're so prepared, you're ready for the overflow. You're ready for the giving. Now, what you have to do is just be prepared and be gracious enough to accept it. And just realize, just as easily as it came, it can also go. So you're not attached to it. Because as you form attachments to things, you're telling the universe you don't have it, or you're lacking it. So you're going to manifest more of that than you are manifesting more of it coming into you.
From this instant on, vow to stop disappointing yourself. Separate yourself from the mob. Decide to be extraordinary. And do what you need to do.
Another great one. Decide. Decide, decide, decide. Decide who you want to be today. Stop disappointing yourself. And truthfully, and what he's talking about is really, this thing goes back to looking within. We hurt ourselves. Nobody hurts us, because it's really just a matter of how we accept those things. Because one person could let things roll off their back and another person would be super offended. So that lets you know that not everybody sees things the same way. So if you're disappointed because it's the way that you're seeing things. So you have to stop disappointing yourself. And one ways that we disappoint ourselves is putting ourselves in a situation where we're around people that don't serve us. Sometimes you're going to have to walk alone. Really, honestly, sometimes you're going to have to be the tiger. Just because a tiger walks alone, just because he hunts by himself, doesn't mean that he's any less dangerous. Matter of fact, it makes him extraordinary or extraordinary, because he's able to do alone what he couldn't do, or what he didn't need to do with a crowd or a pack. You don't need anybody but yourself. And the sooner you realize that, the better off you'll be. The highest form of self-love, the highest expression of self-love, is loving yourself. It means taking care of yourself. You are a sum total of the people that you hang around. And so if you don't love yourself enough to bring awareness to the people that are in your life that aren't moving the way you're moving, then you're going to be disappointed. And it's all on you at that point. But if you want to be extraordinary, you have to move outside of the norm. Like I said, maybe you might have to be alone. And that's okay. Just realize at the end of the day, you're going to be better off for it.
Now, what ought one to say then as each hardship comes? I was practicing for this. I was training for this.
I love this. What I want to say when hardships comes, it's like this was already easy. I saw this coming from a mile away. I've been practicing for this. I was training for this. And this takes a high amount of awareness. I'm not saying this is actually easy. And I'm not even saying that I'm perfect. I'm not saying that I graduated and I understand all this stuff. I really don't. I'm putting myself in a position where I can understand, and I do have a lot of awareness. And so there's certain things that I can come up against that the average person isn't able to come up against. And I have confidence in that. I've been practicing for this. I do the things, I do the work that helps me understand why I do the things that I do. I'm very self-aware. It's about knowing thyself and shedding light on the areas of darkness that you need to work on.
Fortify yourself with moderation, for this is an impenetrable fortress. If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid.
Have a humble heart.
No great thing is created suddenly, any more than a bunch of grapes or a fig. If you tell me that you desire a fig, I will answer that there must be time. Let it first blossom, then bear fruit, then ripen.
Nothing is born overnight. Absolutely nothing. You know, some things have to happen in its own time. So part of the manifestation process is planting the seed. And once you plant the seed is in the ground. You can't keep digging up the seed. You have to let the seed take root, and you may not see the fruit of that manifestation anytime soon. You may not even see an inkling of a plant that may blossom anytime soon. But you just have to trust that you put the seed in the ground and eventually the seed will take root. And what you will see on the upside first had to happen on the downside. The roots had to take root deep enough to be able to get the nutrients. So it had a foundation so that it can grow up top. And then from there, whatever fruit that plant was going to bear, you have to wait until it's time. And it takes time. And there's nothing for you to do. Once you plant the seed, you just have to sit there and trust. You have to sit in it. Again, we go back to the unknown. You have to go back to the unknown and sit in it. And just trust. And know that the God that made you will also make that. And it'll make it happen in his own time.
First, say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do.
Say it is that you want to be, and then do what you have to do. It is speak it and act. Speak those things that are not as though they are. It is bringing the unseen into the unseen. It is saying out loud what you want to happen. And the power is knowing that it would happen. And in knowing that it would happen, you'll walk and act and talk and be the thing that it makes it happen. No, that doesn't mean that you're forcing it to happen. It doesn't mean that you're trying to make it happen. It just means that you're acting in the knowing that it's going to happen.
When you are offended at any man's fault, turn to yourself and study your own failings. Then you will forget your anger. The trials you encounter will introduce you to your strengths. Remain steadfast, and one day you will build something that endures, something worthy of your potential. The world turns aside to let any man pass who knows where he is going.
The world turns aside and lets any man pass. This is talking about the reality. And so as your reality, as you are thinking and speaking and knowing, your reality is going to conform to what you think and want and desire. And if it takes 10 people to make your desire to come to pass, or 10,000 people for your desire to come to pass, it will come to pass, as Neville Goddard said in his book. You're just, it's they're playing the role, parts in your movie to create the part of your movie that's going to bring your desire to pass. So the world will conform to you. But you have to know where you're going. You have to have intention, and you have to have a mindset and know that it will happen.
Attach yourself to what is spiritually superior, regardless of what other people think or do. Hold to your true aspirations, no matter what is going on around you. You may fetter my leg, but Zeus himself cannot get the better of my free will. Seek not the good in external things. Seek it in yourselves.
Just a repeat of what we've already been talking about.
On the occasion of every accident that befalls you, remember to turn to yourself and inquire what power you have for turning it to use. It is the nature of the wise to resist pleasures, but the foolish to be a slave to them. Caretake this moment. Immerse yourself in its particulars. Respond to this person, this challenge, this deed. Quit evasions. Stop giving yourself needless trouble. It is time to really live. If you want to be a writer, write.
So simple, but very powerful. If you want to be a writer, write. If you want to be a doctor, be a doctor. Make your mind. A double-sided man has no place in the kingdom of heaven. And I'm paraphrasing, that's one of the quotes out of the Bible. And or a lukewarm person will be spewed out of the mouth of God. I'm also paraphrasing. Meaning that anybody that doesn't have a decision, that hasn't decided what they want, they are regarded as less than. But the people who have intentionality, those are the people of respect. And those are the people that have things that just happen. We all been around those people. We all been around people who, man, it just seems like everything that person touches turns to gold. It's a form of alchemy. But is they tapped into something. They tapped into an energy, and it's a law of the universe that if you just decide to do something, or to have something, or to be something, the world will bring it to you. The walls will come crumbling down just to bring it to your feet. Understand that.
The key is to keep company only with people who uplift you.
Again, be with the people who compliment you, who uplift you, who can give you something. Stay away from those people that drain you of energy, that have nothing to give. You are always a sum total of the 5 people that you're around the most, because you can't help but be like those people. Birds of a feather flock together.
Whose presence calls forth your best. Be discriminating about what images and ideas you permit into your mind.
Not only people, but be cautious of the things that you look at, the images that you see. How do those things make you feel? Do they make you think some type of perversion? Do they make you think less than of yourself? Do they have you having self-esteem issues? Do they have you upset and angry? Pay attention to those lower level vibrations when you're around certain people. But also pay attention to the higher vibrations when you're around other people who are uplifting, that are doing something, that have something positive to give you. Surround yourself with people like that, and you'll grow.
Mind. No man is free who is not a master of himself.
It's talking about emotional security. You cannot say that you're fully free unless you have completely mastered knowing yourself. And I mean, when I say knowing yourself, this is not all woo woo or whatever. This is about understanding who you are. What is your triggers? What causes you to do the things that you do? What makes you tick? What has you upset all the time? What makes you smile? Who makes you smile? Those are the things that are going to free you. Those are the things that if you have a great understanding of, a mastery of it, you can't be swayed like the tree back and forth. Your roots are strong and they go deep into the ground, and you're unmovable and you're unshaken no matter what's going on around you.
If anyone tells you that a certain person speaks ill of you, do not make excuses about what is said of you, but answer, he was ignorant of my other faults.
Don't worry about it. Who cares? Who cares what's speaking about you? If they ain't got nothing nice to say, who cares? We worry about more about what people think about us than what we think about ourselves. And nobody is without fault, and nobody's perfect. And what this passage is saying is, you know, who cares? I'm not going to dwell on what anybody's saying about me, because obviously if that's what they saw, they didn't see all the other stuff that was wrong with me. You know, because most people are too consumed with themselves to even be able to worry about what they're seeing visually outside in another person. So their limited understanding of what they see, their view of people, it doesn't even matter. It's a limited view.
Else he would not have mentioned these alone. It is impossible to begin to learn that which one thinks one already knows.
Be humble.
Do not seek to have events happen as you wish, but wish them to happen as they do happen.
Do not wish to have things happen as you. Do not seek to have events happen as you wish, but let them happen as they're going to happen. And, in all honesty, I've struggled with this one myself. I think we all have struggles at various degrees. And because I wanted to control everything and to control the uncontrollables, when things went awry, I wanted to try even harder to get a grasp of it. And what I'm learning, me personally, what I'm learning is sometimes I just got to take my hands off of it. There ain't nothing for you to do, because it would happen anyway. And sometimes when you got your hands on it, you're just going to make it worse. And how many of us done made some shit worse? I did. So sometimes you just got to take your hands off of it and let the universe work it out. And the universe will work it out. And you just wish that it happened the way it happened, because at the end of it, what it was meant to do was to make you stronger anyway. It's casting a light on the areas in which you needed to grow. And sometimes you wouldn't have done the work otherwise. You wouldn't have grown otherwise. So you needed to do the work in that area in the first place. And so the trials and tribulations that come to you are uniquely for you and are designed for you. And it is designed for you because those are the things that are going to make you work.
All will be well with you. Never depend on the admiration of others.
You don't need
There
it.
is no strength in it. Personal
All you need
merit
is yourself.
cannot be derived from an external source.
So listen, you guys, that was a great video on Stoicism and fear and overcoming your fears through Stoicism. And these are quotes from both Epictetus and Marcus Aurelius, Greek philosophers who practiced Stoicism. And the main thing in Stoicism is controlling what you can control and letting go what you cannot. And trust me, most times you can't control much. So you just have to accept. And that is a big word. Just accept what is presented to you and accept it graciously, knowing that you're going to be stronger on the other end of it. And no, that doesn't mean that everything is going to turn out okay. And no, that doesn't mean that everything is going to work out in your favor. And whatever doesn't work out in your favor, it wasn't meant for you in the first place. So that is the end of this discussion for today. My name is Prince Williams, the real Prince Williams. And I want you to tune in for more empowerment. And I'm here to help you flow and grow. And until next time,